All right,
Bonjour, bonjour.
here in the office, and actually an idea that David from that does our videos come up with. He goes, "Oh, look, I know I'm doing this behind the badge work with you, and but wouldn't it be good right now to do something for the World Cup?" And as you've been following, I've had loads of people ask. I don't know about you, Marty, as well. Like, hey, what was the World Cup like? Oh, it must have been so good. And the answer is yes to all of those things. But really, just wanted to take advantage of this platform and just share some of our experiences.
Yeah, I think yeah, everybody in every walk of life's asking us about the World Cup from a sporting perspective as well as like culturally, and kind of like logistically because it's such a small place. Um, Whether they're a soccer fan or not, they're asking us questions about our experience. So it's good to share.
Yeah. And it all started, when was it, November last year, and we just said, and this is something to put in for 3 years' time when it's in the US. We just put in for the lottery, didn't we?
Yeah, this time, well, just before this time last year, we started investigating what it would take to get World Cup tickets. In our research, we found that you had to enter a lottery. And funnily enough, the lottery was in December last year. I think it's a predetermined amount of time before the World Cup kicks off, just within 12 months. So when it comes to America, it's probably going to be June the year before or July the year before. So yeah, I put in for one area of the lottery, which was the four stadium experience, and I think you put in for like the knockout stages, or what stage?
Yeah, I put in, being greedy, I put in for the England games and but no, and we had another friend of ours do the same.
Yeah.
But for me personally, it just like the stars aligned. It was the quiet part of the season right now.
Yeah.
I know you've got the high school, but with the pre-high school and the goalkeeping, it was a bit quieter for me. Dubai and the Middle East is something that I've always wanted to go bucket list. And for those that don't know, I did city planning as my degree. So like to see somewhere like Dubai, and I didn't even know about Qatar and all the building, how well developed that was.
Yeah.
So to see that, and then another bucket list World Cup.
Oh yeah, that was as a soccer fan, football person, I think it's the pinnacle of everything you want to experience, and I think being in such a condensed area and being probably the most unique World Cup that has ever and will ever exist in terms of planning and geography, and allowing us access to kind of different cultures and different games, it almost, as you say, the stars aligned and kind of knocked off a few bucket list items for both of us. Yeah. For me personally, it was good to go over there because I have really good friends that live in Dubai, who I haven't seen in a long time. I've got a cousin that lives in Abu Dhabi who we've seen. You don't get to see that often. And even in Qatar, I've got a friend from high school that was on the ground there that helped us out a little bit. So I was able to see good people that I haven't seen in a while, as well as get to see the World Cup. So it was great experience all in.
Yeah, so we ended up going with a long-term friend of ours, Mark Davis, who's at Southeast. He actually lived with us. Got in New London a long time ago. But now, I guess the question everyone's asking, well, first of all, it's a 12.5-hour flight.
Yeah.
But, what was Doha like? And for you, was it as you expected?
I think it surpassed expectations. I think kind of getting out of the airport on the taxi and getting into like the little neighborhood apartment, it kind of almost felt completely otherworldly. It was you certainly realized that you were exposed to a different culture, and with that comes a little bit of apprehension. You don't want to impede on other people's cultures, and you don't want to embarrass yourself, and you don't want to kind of annoy the locals. But we found that the locals and the staff at the apartments and the neighborhood was exceptionally friendly. We kind of took a shot in the dark with our location. Because we were rushing so much and we were nervous about where we would stay, that we just kind of selected a place that we thought was going to be good for access to metros and tourist areas.
Yeah, I think part of the deal was when you got your tickets, you had to get accommodation and everything. And you think, I'll go to one of those nice hotels. And we looked at West Bay and all the stuff that you probably see on the TV, all those lovely buildings and whatnot.
Pearl and stuff, yeah.
We soon found out that that's for sponsors.
Yeah.
You'll see, we saw the U.S. national team hotel.
Yeah.
on that first night as well. But you know, for people that just got lottery tickets, it was a little bit different,
Yeah,
weren't
it
it?
was.
But
Yeah, it was also a accommodation lottery as much as it was a ticket lottery. And thankfully we got the four stadium kind of lottery pass, and we were able to kind of access Umgualina apartments,
oh yeah, yeah,
which were very nice, ultimately very well located, walking distance to the local metro. Beautiful little neighborhood that very very old school. Kind of take me back to my youth, where around the corner there was the one guy that could afford to pay for the World Cup games, and all the neighbours sat outside his house watching it on the big screen outside one fella's house.
yeah. I don't know. We'll have to. I think there's a photo of.
There's a photo somewhere. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, very Arabic looking neighborhood that we had. But you know, for me, everything was so clean. The just Marty said, "Oh, why are you videoing so much as well?" But to me, when you're videoing, you get some of the sounds, and one of the distinct things was the call to prayer with all the mosques and everything, which certainly a different experience and respectful. But clothes wise, I took a load of long sleeve, and I'm sure you did as well. But you didn't end up having to wear that, did
Oh
you?
yeah, I think the media led you to believe that as like a really conservative country, you'd have to be respectful, both from in terms of your behaviour and your apparel and how you dressed. I think maybe they were a little bit more liberal for the World Cup, because you did see people of all shapes and sizes, and people wearing all sorts of things, and all the foreigners were in the long gowns that the locals wear, and I think everybody was really well received. So I think going into it with an apprehension of, I don't want to step out of line, I don't want to offend anybody, we quickly became very comfortable with how the locals treated us and accepted everybody from Brazil to South Korea, from Senegal to
made a list.
Switzerland,
Yeah,
yeah.
and even the workers from in Qatar, not all of them were, they're from Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and whatnot. So
yeah, it was a real melting pot.
But we got everywhere by metro, and
Yeah.
the visas that we had, you got the free metro, and first night we got to the fan park, and then all the stadiums were accessible by metro, and there was a bit of a running joke, and I don't know if this guy has become a bit famous, but the metro this way, hey.
Metro this way, metro this way, metro this way, metro this way, metro this way.
He's become a bit of a celebrity internationally on the media. We can probably post a link to it, but yeah, the amount of staff they had, how helpful they were, and people, they were 10 yards away from the metro, and they were jovially shouting "Metro this way," and basically keeping everybody kind of moving. I think from an operations standpoint, you can't really fault them, right? I think it was like
Trains,
yeah,
buses.
yeah. How they linked the Heya card, which is the visa, to your ticket, so you could get access to the stadium. How that Heya card, which was your visa, allowed you free metro transport from game to game, and day to day. It was good. Yeah, it was great.
I love myself a stadium.
Yeah.
Right, that feeling you get when I was a kid, just seeing the 4 pylons for floodlights, and obviously the stadiums are different now. But that feeling when you walk into a new stadium and you go up the stairs, you get the concourse, and you got that little bit you go through, just seeing the stadium for the first time. And I was so lucky that we went to 6 different stadiums in the end. We had the lottery for 4 tickets, and we got 2 other tickets almost while we were there. But lucky that we went to 6 of them. What struck you about the stadium? Because they were the roofs. I
think just how different each stadium was, even though they were within a small radius. You had the container stadium. It was made of all the shipping containers, which was amazing. And whenever the crowd was jumping, you could feel it all kind of shaking. It was kind of crazy.
Who was that? Was it Ghana?
That was Ghana, Portugal, which was a
Ghana,
great
Portugal.
second half. Albeit the stadium where we watched the USA versus England was great because it was almost like a big tent in the middle of the desert.
Oh, yeah. People asked me about that. It wasn't like walking into a stadium. It was more like walking into a hotel lobby.
Yeah.
Like you go in and the doors opened, and it was like wallpaper. It was, and hopefully I'll show it here. But it's like the tent on the interior was taken care of as much as
it was impeccable.
The first game, which was the National Stadium, the Khalifa
Yeah,
Stadium.
I like the Khalifa. I think probably that resonated most because that was the only authentic stadium that had been there. That was their national stadium prior. So even though it probably wasn't the nicest, it had a real kind of like homely feel about it. Apart from the air conditioning units that were blowing in the back of our heads.
With that first game, we were right up there by the air conditioning units, and
It was freezing.
yeah. I think this is what I've been telling people. I think originally, the World Cup was meant to be in the summer.
Yeah.
And Qatar just said, "Oh, it was going to be in the summer, with 42 degrees Celsius, whatever that is, 110,
120 Fahrenheit.
We'll make it more comfortable with the air conditioning." And you'll see all these stadiums have got these great big air conditioning units, either at the bottom or at the top. And the reality is, it wasn't that warm, 84 degrees or so.
It was
during
manageable.
the day.
Yeah, certainly manageable. It wasn't like you were sweating sitting in your seat at the stadium.
No.
Almost the air conditioning made it uncomfortable at the other end. It was like it was too cold.
It was like, make sure you bring a long sleeve.
Yeah.
And again, right, the times of the games there, and people say, "Oh, why were the games so late?" I'm assuming it's for the US market as well, TV wise. But the games were 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 7 and 10.
Yeah, which was 5 a.m., 8 a.m., 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. here.
Right.
On the Eastern.
But 7 o'clock and 10 o'clock, it wasn't boiling. That's for sure. But my favorite stadium, I don't know, is when I went Spain, Costa Rica. I think you went.
Al Ryan? Oh, yeah. I didn't go to that game. I was at the Japan-Germany game that day.
It had like this concourse, and it was you kind of stepped up, and rather than being enclosed, it was open almost. As soon as you walk in, you could see it, and I like that one. But I think the best one, with regards to size, and it's actually where they're going to have to find out, Lucille.
Yeah.
80, awesome. I think 88,000 when we were there. The curvature roof, 3 lots of like lights that go through, a magnificent. I said the one that's like a bread basket almost.
Yes. Yeah. That's where we seen Argentina versus Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
which was a good game.
I think I posted as well on my own thing. I found my new favorite stadium. But that game was great, right? And people say, "Oh, what was your best game?" Yeah. I think atmosphere-wise, Argentina against Saudi Arabia.
Even the metro there, we were stuck between the two sets of fans.
Well, we got on, didn't
Sandwiched. We? Yeah.
Full of Argentina, and you had your Argentina uniform on as well, kit on. And we walk in, and all of a sudden on the other half of the metro, like as we come in from one door, was a load of Saudi Arabia fans.
Yeah.
And like, you thought, this, but and this sums up how it was, right? Because they started chanting, but then there were selfies and people talking. And I'm stuck in the middle, Argentina one side, Saudi Arabia the other,
and they were going crazy. They were going crazy in a good way, in a jovial way, in a friendly way, but they were very vociferous in their support of their team. I think it carried on kind of through the game and afterwards, even downtown, whenever they were the Argentinians were down there, just enjoying the experience, but the Saudis were loving it, right? Loving it.
And it's like the congregation part is called the Super Keef.
Yeah.
Which was very close to our apartment, almost walking distance. And it's like the old town, which if we describe it as the Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, is it?
Kind of like stalls and markets that are very almost like Indiana Jones / Aladdin type stuff, where you have all the vendors and people selling birds and rabbits and chickens and roosters and
and you can easily get lost in the inside part. But that's where everyone congregated, and this is what I've been telling to most people is the fact that it was a one city tournament.
Yeah.
So different to before, and it's going to be so different to how the US do it. Meant that everyone was congregated together in that Super Keef. They have the Corniche, which if you imagine like the crescent of a moon, it's like a 3-mile coastline, and it had a whole like World Cup stuff along the way. But you know, in that Super Keef is where like Saudi Arabia were going crazy, but that's where you see everyone: Croatia, Netherlands,
Everybody.
Saudi Arabia, obviously. Argentina were well represented.
They were. Yeah, Mexico was well represented. And Saudi Arabia was well represented because it's a border country. But
Welsh.
There's loads of Welsh, for sure. That's for sure.
Being a big one for them. But
and one of the things that jumped out to me was the amount of people from that greater area of the Middle East that would congregated in Doha, in Qatar, but had selected their teams to play or to support. You know, so there was Sri Lankans who were Argentinian fans, people from Pakistan who might have been supporting Germany or England. You know, they were all there with their jerseys. So it was almost unreal fans, you would say. It's like not your stereotypical English guy. It's like a Pakistani guy walking down with his England jersey, or a Sri Lankan guy walking down with his Argentinian jersey. And they were well received by the actual, I'd say, legitimate fans, those that came from Argentina or England or Spain. So all the neighbouring countries had a bunch of people who travelled there and chose their teams to support. I think it was on the bus on the way to the USA England game. My brother was sitting beside a guy, and my brother had his USA jersey on. And the guy says, "Oh, I'm going to support USA today too." But he had the St. George's Cross.
Oh yeah,
he had the England flag.
It made for a real friendly, I call it, festival of football.
Yeah,
you know, in the area, which, you know, I think in the past, if you have, say, all the England fans in one area, you know, the Brazil fans in another, and then they come and play, it becomes almost like tribal, and then that's where maybe some trouble starts. But didn't see any trouble. All the fans were mixed in.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Now, you know, people might say that's no beer, maybe.
It wasn't that hard to come by. I think during the day, typically, and have been these games and events where, you know, in a place like the Souk Waqif, guys might be just kind of sitting around drinking all day. That wasn't the case at all, because it's not legal to drink in public in Qatar. So maybe that kind of led to the avoidance of kind of stirring up of emotions, and people were controlled for the most part during the day. But going over there thinking, oh my goodness, we're going to have a dry week and we're not going to be able to socialise and all that good stuff, and we're here to just enjoy the soccer. Yeah, we couldn't have been more wrong, I suppose, right? It was in the evenings. It was very social. There was restaurants, bars, and stuff within hotels. You could see, all the dads from all around the world that were coming to support their teams. We went to the hotel bar at the Radisson, and it was almost like the Souk Waqif. After dark.
Well, with live bands and there was you could get alcohol, order.
You'd still see all the jerseys mixing. But then you'd see all the drinks mixing too. But again, I think because it was condensed to the evenings, it kind of allowed for even like the evenings to be very social. We never seen one bit of trouble, never seen one one issue in terms of conflict, one kind of fan rivalry that led to anything other than a hug and a
selfie.
Sing song, and a selfie.
Culturally as well. Islamic art museum we went to, National Museum, and even just like getting the boat across the what they call the dhow.
The dhow boats. Right on the Persian Gulf. It was it offered everything, right? It's one of those ones that you never think about going there, but already I'm thinking about going back. Even with the family, I think that like the beaches were nice. The amenities that we probably didn't even see. There was nicer hotels that you could avail of that we didn't get to. So I know after it all dies down, and I would definitely go back and see my friends and go back to Abu Dhabi and see my cousin, and take my family with me. Although going into that, I just didn't really know what to expect. If that would be the case.
That's the beauty of travel. But back to the football. England USA was the highlight. Just need to 1 minute. The office lights have gone off. Oh, there you go.
Too sedentary here.
England USA were that was a highlight of our tickets. Yeah, we had a bit of a dour 0-0 when he said,
Yeah.
what was your favourite game? And I said about Saudi Arabia and Argentina. You know, lucky we Ghana, Portugal was exciting.
Yeah.
Costa Rica,
Lots of goals for Spain.
Spain. You saw Japan.
Yeah, so
beat
Japan beat
Germany.
Germany. That was a good game because my cousin and his wife was there, and she's Japanese, so it was like that was nice.
But yeah, England, USA, and then all of a sudden 0-0.
Yeah, from a soccer spectacle, it wasn't the greatest, but I think we had good seats.
Yeah, and we where did we saw Johnny? Oh, it was USA Wales.
Yeah, I've seen one of our players and his father, the Costellos at the USA Wales game, which was quite nice. But yeah, some good games, and each game brought with it a different experience. You know, whether it be the craziness of the fans, you know, whether it be like the quality of Spain or the quality of England versus Costa Rica and Iran, respectively. The tightness of the Japan-Germany game or the Saudi Arabia-Argentina game or the Ghana-Portugal game second half was it was very good.
I didn't know, like from a tactical point of view, obviously we got there early a lot of the time just to make sure that we were in a lot of the photos we shared were hour and a half before kickoff or whatnot. But from a coach's perspective, it was great to see some of the warm-ups. And I've got to tell you, nothing groundbreaking, which was pleasing to see. And from a goalkeeper coaching perspective, I've seen a couple of the goalkeepers this week. And I'm glad to say, not doing anything too different. The Saudi Arabia team had their own lines that they brought.
That was maybe the biggest thing we noticed. Right, instead of cones, it was almost tape right between the cones. So it was like how they sectioned out their warm up was very, very distinctive.
Costa Rica, by the way, against Spain, I think they knew they were up against it. Did not do any shooting warm ups whatsoever. Everything was 2 banks of 4, almost like going in 2s. But they, it's all defensive. It didn't work very well. So maybe they changed.
Knew what they expect, prepared as best they could, and still failed. That's the game sometimes. But for the most part, the warm-ups were quite similar from a team perspective, right? They had the starting 10 players, apart from the goalkeeper, kind of do a little bit of intense stuff and maybe some tactical stuff and functional stuff to goal, where the guys that weren't starting maybe did a little bit of a lighter warm-up and did some more stuff on the side of the field in preparation to come on. So that was interesting, and we kind of do the similar at the collegiate level, but maybe not at the club level, where you're focusing on the 10 starters to get them game ready, because the first couple of minutes of the game is important. So that was a take home for me. Whether we can implement that at the youth level here and make it successful is something we need to consider.
Obviously there, and my brain was always ticking, not that we're going to be able to build a stadium at All Saints or anything like that, although I would love to do that. But I think the fan zone as well provided a couple of things for us to think about implementing. And obviously with the sponsors there, Adidas got some stuff, and Puma had stuff. And with this 3-mile corniche, there was stuff there for people to do along the way. I think I like that little indoor, it was an outdoor stadium, wasn't it? Adidas Stadium.
They had almost like a watching stadium, but the little watching benches kind of overlooked maybe like a little 4v4, 5v5 field. At the back end had like a big screen, and they had people lying on their bean bags on the field and stuff, and they had the little stadium behind. It looked really, really good. And then they had the soccer crazy golf.
Soccer crazy golf with the mini balls, and maybe that's something we could implement at All Saints. But the flags as well, they gave away all the flags.
Yeah, at every game you could pick or choose the team you'd support, and they give you the English flag or the Iranian flag, the USA flag or the Wales flag. It was all just giveaways, just to increase the customer experience.
We all had it. We had a wave of the flags and all that. Yeah. Sometimes you and I were waving different flags.
There you go. Yeah, all oriented towards like engagement. So like whenever, from our perspective, if we can take any of it and put it in the All Saints as we redevelop the facility, and little brothers or sisters or older brothers or sisters or kids that are there early for a game can avail of a couple of things that just kind of keep them engaged from a soccer perspective and are interested in fun. It'll be a trip well attended if we can bring some stuff back.
we bring a bit of World Cup to us, and I think the hope is, we're already talking about in 2026. I don't know, like having the month off.
Yeah.
For all of our players to be to experience it in some way. So we're looking at ways.
Yeah, we're going to try and investigate how, like, maybe our players can be ball boys and ball girls, how coaches can be stewards, as a World Cup comes to us.
Yeah.
Can we do something as a club to make that World Cup experience just so much more special for the people that are with us?
Yeah. It just got to inspire. You talk about the ladies team of 1999 and how that inspired the current US team, and hopefully for our players, the fact that World Cup will be in the US will be inspire them.
And know that it takes about a year in advance to get your applications in for your lottery for this. So even though the World Cup's 3.5 years away, in 2.5 years people will be applying for the tickets. So they follow your teams, or they maybe do like the Mexico segment or the Canada segment or the Eastern segment or the Western segment. So we'll keep we
liaise with parents on the best way so as many of our players can get tickets as possible. Talking of which, we've got we got the World Cup final
watch party.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that it's next Sunday. So Sunday the 18th.
Hopefully we'll get this out before then.
Yeah. I think it's going to go out today. But so at Dockside, which might be one of our major sponsors on our jersey for next year, they're looking to host a World Cup watch party. We've sent it out in Sports Engine to some of the teams, if not all of the teams, and some people are RSVPing already. So I think Dockside's going to put the main area of their restaurant and kind of cordon that off for Connecticut friends, families, players, coaches. And we'll get there an hour and a half before the game, stay for a couple of hours afterwards, and whoever makes it, and whoever wins. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that we can share our experience, and hopefully inspire some of you to get to some games coming up.
Nice. See you on the field.
Bye.